Now, somebody that didn't lose power last night was the Knicks. And,
that's awesome.
We were talking about this yesterday, and I said, if there's one portion of the game where they have to control the game, that's at the point guard position because the Sixers don't have a point guard. And again, that was evidenced last night. Now, Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose play great, and they almost split the minutes. I think Kemba had 28 and Derrick Rose had 20. And, of course, the Knicks are now hoisting up threes ad nauseum. I mean, it's so many three-point shots. They have completely changed from where they were last year. And last night they hit their shots, and they controlled I believe, the most important part of an NBA basketball game, and that is the point guard position. Because right now, Philadelphia doesn't have one. And going into the game, to me, that was going to be, the big part of why Kemba Walker is here. He's here because he's a starting point guard in the NBA. He's got the experience. He's had the success. And last night was a game where he had to go out there and he had to control the game from his position. And I thought he did that. I thought he had his best game as a Knick, although it's very early in the season. He did not turn the ball over, and he and Derrick Rose both controlled that position from start to finish.
Yeah, two things I loved last night. One was Kemba Walker going off in that second quarter because we hadn't really seen that from him. And then after the game, he talked about how this was a dream come true. New York City kid going off like that at the Garden in a Knicks uniform. We've seen him go off at the Garden before, of course, but in a Knicks uniform with that crowd cheering him, that was really absolutely a dream come true. And the other thing that I loved was Tom Thibodeau after the game talking about how he knew that this was going to be a good night for the team before they tipped off because of the reaction that they had after that terrible loss to the Magic at home. And the reason why that's important to me, it's Game 4 in the regular season, is because it's exactly that. It's Game 4 in the regular season. You feel like there's a lot of teams in the NBA and a lot of coaches that are like, this stuff's going to happen. We got to play better. We'll clean up a couple things, whatever, and they don't focus on it. He said that everybody, after the game, Thibodeau said everybody was working harder, showing up earlier because they were embarrassed that they lost to the Magic at home, and they came out and they stomped all over the Sixers. Like, there's a different mentality with this Knicks team than a majority of the teams in the NBA, and I am confident in saying that. And maybe it ends up hurting them towards the end of the season because everybody else is doing load management and everybody else is looking at the regular season a different way, and maybe they're burned out in the playoffs. I don't know. And that could be something that we're talking about. But my God, I mean, even Julius Randle last night, I couldn't say these things better than these guys are saying. Julius Randle last night's like, I don't have to score 30 anymore to win. Because this is great. He's like, you got guys all over the place who are scoring. I don't have to score 30 to win. I remember Carmelo Anthony used to, be criticized because if the team won or lost, didn't matter to him as long as he got his 30. I mean, that's what his teammates would say. So I just love this group. I get excited about watching them like I'm getting excited about watching a football game. That's how into him I am, and last night was just tremendous.
Well, if they hit their three-point shots the other night against Orlando, they would have won going away as well. But yeah. Cole Anthony was a little bit of an annoyance, to say the least,
yes.
As nobody can stay with him. This is going to be, I'm telling you, it's going to be the rub the entire season. They handled Embiid last night, but Embiid obviously is hurting because they don't have a legit point guard, whether it be Ben Simmons or Kyrie Irving or anybody else. If they had Kyrie Irving, I think they'd be a lot better. They'd be an unbelievable team. They'd be a championship team for sure.
Yeah.
But as long as they are going out there and playing with the group that they have, they're not really going to go anywhere. Embiid's going to have to carry them, and last night in the first half, he was, believe it or not, virtually invisible.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing for the Knicks. And the Knicks, let's face it, it's the same. It's kind of the same mantra that they had last year. And I was glad. You remember last year at the training deadline, we talked about it. They didn't trade for anybody. They didn't do anything stupid. They let the guys that he had there, own up to it and go into the playoffs. And unfortunately, it didn't work in the playoffs. I would just say that, like, Thursday night they play the Bulls, and they're going to be at Chicago. Chicago, I believe, is undefeated.
Yeah, they're 4-0.
Okay,
yeah.
So and they have Lonzo Ball playing point guard.
Big offseason. Yep, getting Lonzo Ball.
Right. So we will, that will be the next thing. Going on the road, playing against a team that has a presence at point guard is going to be a telltale sign for the Knicks moving forward. It's great to watch what we saw last night. After 15 straight losses to the Philadelphia 76ers, they were the Jets to the Patriots, for God's sake.
Sure.
But after that, and, if you don't feel sorry for anybody, but you have to be realistic about why they won and how they won, and you expected them to win. I mean, there was no way that they should have won the game last night because of the Sixers' problems at point guard. Now we just got to see if Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose can continue to do this. That's going to be the season-long question. If they can make it through the entire season, play like they did last night, and split the minutes essentially, and score 32 points combined. That's right there is the number that we all should be looking at.
Yeah, and you mentioned the trade deadline last year. You know what I think is going to be really interesting is the trade deadline this year. And the reason is for a couple of reasons. First off, the Knicks have a lot of picks. They've accumulated stuff. They've set up their organization in a big way. And last year, of course, they didn't add, and they ended up getting bounced in the first round. And the Knicks now have changed the perception of the team through how they played the last couple of years. And there's going to be players that used to say, the Knicks, I don't want to go there. I don't want to be a part of that. And now look at what's going on.
All right.
And hear, people say, a regular season game's like a playoff game. Just wait till you see the playoff games here again. That would be, I know it's a long way away, but there could be a big chip coming this way, trade deadline.
All right.
Keep playing like this.
All right, like who is that chip? Like who is the player?
Well, but
I'm
that's
just
the thing in the
asking,
NBA.
do you have an idea? I don't know if you have an idea of a specific player, but do you have an idea of what position and how?
I'll tell you why it's hard to say now is because you got to see the disgruntled NBA player turns on a dime. Right? That's the thing. It turns on a dime. And it could be anybody at any time if a season falls out of favor and then all of a sudden it becomes clear this person's not signing here, whatever. That Anthony Davis Pelicans thing came out of nowhere. Nobody had any idea he was disgruntled. Next thing you know, he's sitting on the bench and it was over. So we'll see. It's a long way to go to the trade deadline, but I would imagine that this year if an opportunity arises where they have to shake it up a little bit at the trade deadline, they might think differently. But we'll see how good they are at that point. Maybe they're so damn good. Maybe they're the 1 seed.
Calm down. No, calm down. I would just say, look, to me, you like this team. I like this team. I like the grit. I like the fight. They're shooting a lot more threes this year, and I'm sure that people that are going to the game find it to be more exciting. When a three is hit and everybody's waiting for it to go through the hoop, everybody explodes. And last night, they shot well. There are going to be nights where, like against Orlando, they don't shoot well. But if you like this team, I like this team, but we also know this team is not championship caliber. The question is, when the trade deadline comes and there are players available, where are you going and who are you trying to replace? And does that change the dynamic that the team has got going on the last 2 years? That's the big question. Like everybody talks about like Bradley Beal, great player, and all this. Get him. And it's like, okay, you bring him here. What does that do to what this team is that we all like about it?
Yeah, but you're also adding one of the best players in basketball, and it depends what you're giving up. If you're not ripping apart, too much of the current roster, and it's something you got to look at that could potentially put you over the top. And that's one guy that people are going to look at because of his contract, and he's got a player option for next year, and then that's that. So he's probably those player options. Those guys decline those player options every single time and then sign for more. So he's absolutely a guy that you would look at. But it's still down the road, and you don't know. Maybe there's deficiencies. I'm talking so positively about it.
Yeah, there could be injuries. There could be people hurt. Whatever. There could be opportunity to fill a spot. There's no question about that. So at the end of the day, they lost the game that they should have lost to Orlando. They bounced back the right way, said all the right things. Tibbs talked to you about, or talked to us about what happened after the loss to Orlando. And, that's the mindset that you want. And I still say that mindset is driven by Julius Randle and R.J. Barrett and Obi Toppin and, the guys that were here last year and Derrick Rose. So as long as that mindset is still present, then, it's something to feel good about. It's something to build on. Thursday night will tell us a lot, though. Still early, but playing against the top tier point guard, playing against an undefeated Bulls team in Chicago, Chicago-New York rivalry, all of that stuff. Maybe that stuff gets reignited. And it's just good to get the whole Philadelphia stink off your back.
Oh, my God.
That to me.
14 straight to them, it's just terrible. Wasn't it nice to have a team roll in to the Garden who is got bigger problems than the Knicks. Like, they just had drama surrounding them, and everything's a mess. And then the Knicks went in and smacked them around. I mean, it's usually the opposite of that. So it was just great. And you mentioned Obi Toppin. I mean, I was worried about him. There's no doubt about it. I was worried about him last year, and I know that R.J. Barrett had a big leap year 1 to 2, and I trusted the coaching staff, but I just didn't know if he was going to fit in. They have found a way to make him fit in, and he got bigger, he got stronger. They're looking for him. I mean, he and the Garden crowd absolutely loves him. He provides a spark to the team. I'm so happy that early on he is fitting in the way that he is. And then I'll say it again, too. He's not talked about enough. Having Mitchell Robinson back and healthy just changes so much for this team. I just feel so much more confident when he's out there on the floor. Offensive rebounds, defensive presence in the paint. I mean, he's so injury prone, and he was able to avoid one against Orlando, the home game. But I he's got to be on the court. That guy changes the entire feel around the team when he's out there.
And just remember, they're also missing right now Nerlens Noel.
Yeah, I know.
And he had what I would consider a terrific season last year. One of the reasons why they wanted to bring him back. So that's another depth add to this team. And I just hope Thibodeau gives them all the minutes that they need, allows them, if he wants to, do some load management here or there, back to backs, all that kind of stuff. I'm not against it as long as you have legitimate depth players that, if you want to give a guy a rest, you can give him a rest. So it's good. Don't get me wrong, it is really good. And after last year, coming back this year, it feels better. It looks better. But you just got to see them against top end point guards and how Kemba and Derrick Rose match up in those situations, and whether or not they get outplayed the way that they outplayed the Sixers last night. So that to me is the whole thing, and will ultimately be the crux of this team and how far it goes, is how far those two older point guards take this team.
Yeah, that's very true, and also both of them with big injury history too. So you want to be able to make sure that they're healthy in the most important minutes. But I tell you, Derrick Rose, knock on wood at this point, but Derrick Rose really has looked as solid physically as he's looked in his entire career. He's still going to the basket with a ton of vigor and throwing his body around.
Guts.
Yes, absolutely. So he's trusting his body. He's avoided major injury for a while, so I am knocking on wood. But both those guys, you need great seasons out of both of them if you want to take it to that next level.
Thank you for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to hit the red bell so you're notified when we have new content.